The Celtic Exchange, a fresh insight on Celtic Football Club.
This is episode 76 of TCE Tuesday, brought to you by the Celtic Exchange. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by Miff and Paddy as Celtic opened up a 2-point lead at the top of the table after another week of drama in the singed Scottish Premiership. Miff, we've seen Ange's team play far better than they did on Sunday, but a comfortable win in the end and a good 3 points.
Absolutely. Hello Tino, hello Paddy, hello listeners. Yes, job done. I think it was one of those weekends where the 3 points was an absolute must. You go into the game with everything in your favour in terms of a home game. Nearest rivals already dropped points. You just have to win the game and get out of Dodge. And we did that, albeit that, to summarise it so succinctly, isn't really doing it any justice. I think there's a lot more to dig into, and I think we're going to do that over the next hour or so.
Mm-hmm. You know this show too well, Miff. That is exactly what we're going to do.
It's like I've been coming here every week.
Paddy, as Miff says, given the result at Easter Road on Saturday, it was crucial to keep the momentum going, and any sort of win would do against Hearts.
Any sort of win, obviously, you take that. You know, there's definitely going to be games where we're off the boil, and we want to make sure that we still go and capitalise on the mistakes from Saturday. So we did. Just a few things are just a concern for me, but obviously we'll come on to that through what we're going to speak about today. But just happy to get the 3 points, and it could have been probably more. I'd say it could have been more if we were just
4 points.
Aye. But I'd say if we were a bit more a bit more dynamic. Yeah. I think we could have scored a few more.
You seem like you might be ready to vent, Paddy, and I'm here for this.
I've had time to stew. I think it was more down to the fact it took me an hour and a half to go home for Celtic Park yesterday. That's another story. I just think that looking at yesterday's performance, I'm just a little bit concerned about the mid three that we went with yesterday. I thought McGregor, for me, was the only one that gets pass marks.
I thought McGregor was outstanding.
Aye, same. I really did. But I also thought he was doing a bit more running for the other two in Turnbull and O'Reilly.
I don't think you can play two of them together.
Nah, it doesn't work. It was slowing things down for me. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into all of that and more just shortly. So on today's show, we'll cover all the action from that win against Hearts as a Kevin Clancy-inspired Celtic stole all 3 points from Robbie Neilson and his men. We'll also look ahead to the excitement of Thursday's Champions League group stage draw and at who Celtic may face as we get set to return to European football's top tournament. We'll then return to on-field matters with a look ahead to the visit to Tannadice as we face an under-pressure Dundee United on Sunday in the Scottish Premiership. So, to Sunday's game at Celtic Park. Miff, as I say, a 2-1 in the end. Definitely fair to say we weren't at our brilliant best on the day, but sometimes you've just got to go and see out the win, and that's what we've done.
Yeah, we did. I was there. I thought, listen, anyone coming to Celtic Park, it's their prerogative and how they approach it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I have absolutely no issue with a team coming to play for a 0-0 draw or to keep it as tight as they possibly can for as long as they possibly can and then try and do something in the latter stages of the game. What I saw yesterday was a team still trying to time waste 85 minutes, a goal down. So I don't really quite know when that sort of counter-attack blitzkrieg's going to really come. I just think Hearts' own tactics come back and bite them in the backside, because for a spell in that game, Hearts were on top of us, and had they shown a wee bit more desire and pushed us a wee bit harder, I think they could have got something for the game. And I think that probably, and that's on Neilson, 100% on Neilson and how he set that team up. Admittedly, they had to make changes because of their European game, but in my opinion, Hearts got what they deserved from the game because of how they came and set up. Seen some wild takes on Twitter around, we were struggling against Hearts B team. That wasn't a struggle for the point of view. I think we created 10 clear goal scoring opportunities around that prior to any players being sent off. I think it was just one of those games where a team's defending really deep and you're trying to break through, they interrupt play, they go down for injuries, they block us trying to play out quickly. You know, ball boys are getting the ball back, they're kind of stopping the play, getting down injured, niggly wee fouls, trips. That's fine, that's all part and parcel of it. But when you come to Celtic Park, play like that, and don't get any rewards for it, and the referee then enforces action later in the game because it's been going on all game, don't cry about it.
I agree. I think like there was a lot of chat from Hearts leading into this season. I think their director of football had actually said that, you know, we're not there to try and finish third.
He's a good guy.
They're there to try and try and split basically what Celtic and Rangers have. And yeah, I kind of get, they've maybe looked at yesterday as a bit of a free hit, right? The big game for them is on Thursday. And by the way, absolutely brilliant if they go and get into the Europa League group stages. I heard some crazy chat on Sportsound yesterday that they'd maybe prefer, it maybe be better for Scottish football if they went into they were just happy with the Conference League because they could get more coefficient points. But if you're a manager, if you're a footballer, you want to be playing against the best. That's the target. You've got to try and get in there.
We spoke last week about the lack of ambition from some folk in the game, particularly some commentators in the game.
Yeah.
And that just screams of that. You've got a chance for one of your teams out with Celtic and Rangers to go and compete at a decent level, and you're saying, maybe we should just settle. What a mindset.
Which is fair enough, but I don't think that's coming for Hearts.
No,
because no, I know, but if you look at that, Hearts have went and rested players yesterday so that they can get through, and then Joe Savage has come out with the stuff, pre-season to say, well, we're not here to make up the numbers. And that's probably why they're so scabbing a bit yesterday, because they've seen it as an opportunity. They kind of got fairly close, they had a wee bit of pressure on us at times. It was only 1-0 for a large part of the game. They probably feel it's an opportunity missed. My point is, if you'd actually came with a bit more ambition, you might actually got something.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you come and have a go and you fail, then that's fine, and everyone can put their paws up and go back through to Edinburgh. But they set out in such a way. You're right, Miff, there was a real spell the opening 10 minutes of the second half. They were well on top, and it phases maybe from 80 minutes onwards. And
if we hadn't brought Hatate's height off the bench to intercept the few corners that he did, we'd have been struggling.
No, I just think like on what we're kind of talking about there, it was their approach, and I think that they were quite happy with that, to be honest. He's getting a good look at his second string, and he's also been able to say, right, if we end up qualifying on Thursday, I know what I need to bring in, if they need to bring in any more players. I just think that yesterday was a free hit for them. I really do. For us, as you look at that starting lineup, 7 changes, one of them being a very good goalkeeper in Craig Gordon, in the sense that, we should be testing the backup keeper, who apparently not a lot of people think are confident in. Apparently they're still looking to try and get another goalkeeper as well. And I just thought the urgency from the full team yesterday was really poor. Apart from McGregor.
Yeah. Well, that was something I was going to put to you in particular, Paddy. So Hearts definitely set out to frustrate, and their 7 yellow cards, leading a couple of red cards will tell you that. But in addition to that, our passing it wasn't quite as sharp as we know it can be. And I was going to ask if you put that down to anything in particular, or just one of those days, or what's your theory?
I can't really put a point, like a pin on it. I can't exactly see why it's went like that yesterday. I'm going on possibly the two of O'Reilly and Turnbull just not given that much space, like not moving into the space quick enough in order for the link up that you kind of get with Taylor down the left or Jota down the left. They weren't moving into the spaces quick enough, and the time they were getting there, a lot of the time they were getting closed down, and Hearts were stifling us. I just thought the performance from ourselves was quite lacklustre. I thought that if you look at the body language of some of the guys yesterday as well, the first 10 minutes, it was look up, couldn't see the pass. And I know we do the recycling, but there's normally a bit of zip about it. It's a lot quicker. I just felt it just looked very lethargic. Even going off, players coming off for a sub, and you actually see Callum McGregor. I can't remember who he ran up to. He's basically saying, move, get off the park. Because this season, we don't know how this is going to pan out.
Yeah.
I've said obviously plus 20. I still think that could be a good thing. I still think we could get that. But at the end of the day, we're also thinking, it could be a battle. It could be down to goal difference. We don't need players walking off when it's 1-0. And Hearts are possibly still thinking, we could nick a draw here.
Yeah, I think a lot of folk maybe left Celtic Park a wee bit underwhelmed. I would say 3 points was the most important thing. And it's good to have a wee moan when you're getting 3 points and you've won 4 games out of 4 and you're 36 games unbeaten, so all good there. But just to talk things through, Matt, how did you feel about it? I'm not as frustrated as you seem to be, Paddy. I was looking forward to maybe a bit of a goal fest, which we never got, don't get me wrong. but I was also very comfortable within the game. And, you know, you want to see 3, 4 and 5, but I was happy enough with 2, but we know we can play much better.
I think the bar's been set quite high this season. The reason being that we know to be excited by Ange's second season based on what he's done previously at other clubs. And we've also seen glimmers of that cohesive, slick, free-flowing machine this season that would suggest that we're going to improve every game. Probably Paddy's frustration comes from, he would view it as that was a wee bit of not a stumble in terms of points, but in terms of progressing game by game, because that's Ange's mantra. We want to get better. If we played better than we did in the last game, I think it would probably be fair to say we didn't play better against Hearts than we did against Kilmarnock, albeit that I would say there's a fair gap in the quality of the opposition there. Kilmarnock compared to Hearts. I think in Hearts we're playing what will be our toughest game other than when we play Rangers. So when you put it in that context, as I say, I went there not expecting a goal fest. I think most folk on the bus did. I went there expecting it to be tough. My pre-match prediction was 2-1, and it turned out to be pretty much how I thought it would be. But actually during the 90 minutes it was fairly a tough watch at times, and the lack of free-flowing football I don't necessarily just attribute to Celtic, I attribute that to Hearts as well because of the way Hearts set up. So you'll get, I mean, through the course of a season we never play well every game. This was just one of those games where the situation over the weekend, how the weekend had developed, had happened, and we knew exactly what we had to do. And I think you just need to praise the players for finding a way, because all that matters is they find a way. They're gaining that sort of relentless mentality, and you could see they just kept going right to the end.
I'll always be happy to have players who are disappointed to win 2-0, if that makes some sort of sense, because as you say, we've set the standards high since Sanchez come in. Callum McGregor leads with that message. He carries that message for the manager. And I think maybe he and a couple of others just felt that frustration that it didn't quite click on the day. And, I've maybe given the players an out by saying, maybe it's just one of those days, but I suppose it's up to Celtic to find the solution when it is one of those days. I
totally agree, and I kind of go with what you're saying with, there was just a wee bit of an air of, we've won, we've got the 3 points, we move on from that performance. And listen, I've no doubt that they will. I just think it raised a few questions for me. Are we up to speed? Probably not. We're not playing 2 games a week like we're used to at the start of every season. Do we need to get that quickly? Yes, because if that's going to be our midfield 3 going into the Champions League games, it's going to be very, very difficult, in my opinion. And it raised the question, do we need another player in midfield in front of McGregor? Whether it be O'Reilly or Turnbull or Hatate, drop him out for a player that's just ready to go in there, because I still think we're lacking that quality just in behind.
Yeah, and let's get a wee chat through on that. I've seen some people call for the double pivot situation where you'll have somebody like Mooy sitting alongside McGregor in Europe. I'm not too sure. I just don't think Ange changes the system. I think we've discussed that at length. I think he'll keep his 4-3-3 in effect. Hatate's impact was notable when he came on. We've spoken at length on David Turnbull. We don't need to dwell on that. I think he's a talented boy. I think we all agree he's a talented boy. Yeah.
What I don't like, even though I've probably already been guilty of it myself in saying that O'Reilly and Turnbull can't play together, I just think that's, the two of them are really good players. I just think that's a combination thing, same as O'Reilly and Rogic became a bit of an issue last season in terms of fluidity and movement in the midfield.
Yeah.
I would say the same with Turnbull, McGregor, Turnbull and O'Reilly. But I hate the fact that after a performance like that, there's always got to be a scapegoat, and it was Turnbull for what I seen yesterday. Folk just kind of going for Turnbull. It just, to me, that just gets a bit tiresome. You're allowed to have a bad game. You're allowed to, it's still the start of the season. It's fine, and that's what these games are for. In effect, is that you're trying to find the key. You're trying to find the thing that works. The changes have been enforced on Ange because Hatate's been injured, and he's not came straight back in because the team's been working well. Ange has went 3 games unchanged, and you know what? We've then run into a team that is probably a bit more robust, probably stood up to us a bit more, made sure there wasn't as much space as in other games, and the midfield's kind of struggled with their movement as a result. What you did see when Hatate came off the bench was just a bit more dynamic movement. So that immediately tells you, right, well, it looks like Hatate's come on with a point to prove. My challenge to Hatate would be to play like that for a longer period of time, because when he had started the Aberdeen game, he didn't play anything like what he played when he came on against Hearts. So if you're Ange, you're probably pulling the last remaining strands of your hair out.
You're trying to find that consistency, and I agree. Like anything on Turnbull after Sunday is harsh because he was fine. He did a decent game.
I thought he done all right.
I don't think anyone was great for Celtic. I think you lads are probably right in saying McGregor was probably the standout.
I thought he was excellent.
Everyone else was fine. 6, 7 out of 10, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's maybe been highlighted in Turnbull in the fact that Hatate came on and definitely gave things a lift. He brought on new energy. So it's easy to say Turnbull murder, Hatate amazing, all that kind of stuff.
My worry with Turnbull on that, and we're all watching the same game, but we'll all absolutely all have different takes in certain parts of it. My thinking was that he misplaced a pass, and I think it was maybe one too many on the day because he's then hooked in the 50th minute to bring Hatate on, and I don't know. Like I'm going with what I've heard Ange kind of talk about, and he did say the game was very stuffy. It was very stop start, and it was. Hearts, that was their game plan. I don't know if he's maybe given them a bit of a rollicking yesterday. I just think, time like you say, it's what you said. It starts now. It's time to really ramp it up a bit because we can't go into this sheepishly. We can't go into the next month sheepishly. We can't.
I think it's expectation, Paddy. I think you're right. I think because everybody's went to the game expecting us to march on, and it's maybe just been a wee drop in that when we're expecting it to ramp up. I think that's it. On the point of Turnbull, the goal doesn't happen with him. He plays a pivotal part in the goal. So if he goes and sits his backside down the bench after 55 minutes, knowing that he's contributed to that, brilliant. I mean, there's obviously still a lot of work to do. Maeda does, but without that pass being in that exact place at that exact pace, the goal doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. It allows Maeda to take the touch by the probably possible penalty shout in there as well because he's got his two arms around it as well. But it's a cracking goal. Unfortunately, we just didn't really seem to kind of pick up again after that. I think with Turnbull, I do think there's an element, it's a tired cliche, right? And I'm sorry for even raising it. But I think there's an element because he's Scottish. I think that does come into it with the mentality with that. I'm not saying with you, Paddy, because obviously you've got a brain. But there is I do think there is a certain element where a foreign name just seems more attractive than somebody that's homegrown. I think Turnbull's stats speak for themselves. I think Ange rates him because he tries to get him in the team as often as he can whenever he's fit. I think the issue is aesthetics and how he looks when he's on the park, and that he is a wee bit more cumbersome than other players. However, I think what he offers, he's got a bit of grace, a bit of elegance, a bit of poise in the ball because he's not running around flying into tackles, charging around. It always creates suspicion amongst a higher percentage of the Scottish football fan, I would say. So I think that kind of counts against him. But for me, I just think he's an extremely talented player and he's one worth bearing with. Yeah,
I agree with that, Miff, wholeheartedly. Paddy, you'd mentioned something about maybe Ange in general not being best pleased. You could maybe pick up some of that from his post-match interviews. I missed this at the time, but a mate was telling me that he also didn't come round for the lap of honour, the traditional lap of honour.
Yeah.
I would say that's potentially one of the only times since he's been at Celtic Park that's not happened. From day one, he's been out applauding the fans, and maybe he feels that he or the team didn't deserve it. Aye. Maybe something like that. And I think, people might listen to the show this week and think, geez, what are they going on about? They've won 2-0, 3 points, and those three clowns are moaning. Well, not moaning, but now's the time to maybe... Sorry, Miff.
I'm moaning. I think I've been sunny side up.
Right, got you sunny side. So these two clowns as a point
better.
to mean, Paddy.
Much better.
Most were just me. Sorry, Tino.
This one clown over here.
Tino's been goading you. Tino's been winding you up.
I just ask questions, Miff, and get him going. But, as we've mentioned at different times, it's a good position to be in when you can have just a wee gripe. It's not a full-on moan, is it? But a wee gripe when you're on the up. And I think it was because as the games were ticking along, we were a wee bit better. Aberdeen was decent, wee bit better against Ross County, big bit better against Kilmarnock, back home to Celtic Park on Sunday, and you go back down the dip. But listen, life and progress doesn't go in straight lines, Paddy. There's ups and downs and peaks and troughs. So that's the way that's gone. One thing I thought, you'd mentioned in general, just, some body language and different things. I actually thought, so I done the post-match with James after the show, and my take from the first half certainly was I thought the work rate off the ball was exceptional. I'm clocking guys like O'Reilly, tracking back, winning back possession in the final third. Maeda does it now as a given. And various guys, so as much as sometimes the quality wasn't there in the ball and the sharpness, I don't think there was any lack of work rate.
No, and again, I think it's just the standards that have been set and what we expect. It's a good thing that expectations high. You know, we're not going there just going. I mean, remember last season around it, we were scratching around for victories at this point last season.
Aye.
At this point last year, we had 2 wins out of 4.
Aye,
4 out of 4.
You know, it's all relative to what you're trying to achieve. You know, we want to retain the title. So in order to do that domestically, we want to be at our best. But also, like Paddy said, it's what's looming in the horizon more than just Dundee United and Rangers. It's then the fact that you're going to be getting drawn in probably a really, really tough Champions League group, and that you're seeing enough about the team just now, you know, because there's a very real possibility you could be getting into a Champions League away fixture with McGregor, Turnbull and O'Reilly as your starting 3 midfielders. You're wanting to see enough from them to suggest that you're going to be comfortable with that. And I take Paddy's point that just there was a wee bit of lack of cohesion, but by the same token, it's still early in the season. We're still trying to build that momentum. We're not playing twice a week like we have been accustomed to over many seasons, and some players in the squad will have been used to. I don't know. It was a funny game. It was a funny game. But I'm blaming Hearts. Blame the Jambos. Don't blame us.
If in doubt. The last thing I'd like to debate with you lads before we move on to other things, I tweeted last night from our official account about Mooy's performance, right?
I seen that, Tino.
Right, Miff? It sounds like there's a debate to be had. I thought he was really decent, right? I thought he went on. He's a wee bit slow, but I thought he was very composed in the ball. I don't think he gave the ball away, and he made a really, really important block with maybe 6-7 minutes to go. And he also played a part in the breakaway that led to Civic getting sent off. He had a really good interception. And all in all, I thought he'd done very well, and I think there's better to come. That received a very mixed response on Twitter. If your eyes are giving me a very mixed response,
I think it's
now,
going to receive a mixed response in this room. Were you away at the toilet when he gave the ball away in the halfway line?
I must have been.
I think you were.
So what was your take in general in Miff and Mooy?
We seem to have cloned McCarthy and took his head away.
So that is some of the tweets that were coming back at us saying he does nothing more than James McCarthy done.
I really don't. I don't think he does.
Yeah, so no upgrade for you, Miff, you think?
Absolutely not.
Pointless signing? Already, he's about 3.5 weeks in the door.
No, I'm not saying it's a pointless signing. I'm just saying, like a cliche of mine, football is watched with your eyes. What I saw yesterday was a guy playing like, now sometimes when you were wee and somebody's da, sometimes came and filled in at like 5s or 7s, and they would just like stroll about and easy ball wee man,
spray it,
easy ball wee man, geez it, on you go, roll it with under the foot, there you go, on you go, you do the running. So a bit of that. Yes, great block. I read the game brilliantly, but I would expect that for a 32-year-old ex-international or current international player.
He'll go to the World Cup.
if he's fit enough.
That I would expect that. He just, to me, much like McCarthy, doesn't look a fit for the way that we want to play the game where it's dynamic. He does not look a dynamic footballer. I'm not saying, listen, I watched him when he played with Huddersfield. He's a very effective footballer. He's creative, can score goals when he plays further up the park. Clearly he can dictate the play. But to me, maybe he's going to need a couple of months. But it's hard when you get signed at the time, much like McCarthy suffered for last season. When you get signed at that time when the season more or less started, and you're not going to get a run of games. McCarthy would love 10 games in the first team. He's probably not got to get it. Mooy would love the same. Is he got to get it? I'm not too sure, because I think there'd be a bit of an uproar if Hatate, McGregor or O'Reilly were dropped for him. So I'm just not quite sure on it. I just hope in time that progresses, but I wouldn't have said I watched that cameo yesterday and went, that's all right.
That's funny, because Paddy, you said not long ago there that we all watched the same game, but that's amazing the different takes, because I thought he was pretty decent, I've got to be honest with you. And at least 50% of Twitter agree with him, the good 50% as well.
I'm part of the bad 50.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll get your take on it in a wee second, Paddy, but he's you're right, you know, he's behind the curve. He didn't get a proper pre-season. I don't know what level he was playing at when he was out in China. And who knows, what will be interesting is the games come thick and fast. So after Dundee United, we're then Ross County midweek, then it's the Rangers game, and then there's all sorts of football in Champions League, and there'll be loads of games to contend with, and we might start to see a lot more of them, and then we can properly judge them. So I think it's early bells to be cutting the guy down, although I know you're not saying that, Miff. But what about you, Paddy? You can have your go at him now.
It's not really a go. I was really surprised that we did sign him, to be honest, because I think everyone kind of had an idea that it was going to be very similar to the McCarthy thing. Not in terms of how it's worked out for James McCarthy, but just very similar players. You give McCarthy a chance if that's going to be the case. The guy's sitting on a 4-year contract. The signing baffles me. I don't know if it's been a favour on the basis that he wants to play at this World Cup coming up.
I don't think Ange does favours for anybody in the nicest way. That's not his style.
Fair enough, and I actually don't think the history of Aaron Mooy was too clever back in his days in charge of Australia. He looked a yard off the pace when I first seen him. He now looks 2 yards off the pace, I thought yesterday. Do you know, I just thought he looked a bit slow. But obviously he's just come on, and I know he's trying to catch up with the speed of the game, but Heartsmen are exactly pressing us. And that was my worry. I just think, yes, great tackle. The one he basically got it from under the boy's feet. Brilliant tackle. But there wasn't really much else for me that, I don't know. I'm a bit unsure about him, T.
Do you know what I'm going to do? So I gave my judgment from being at the game. I'm going to rewatch from when Mooy came on, and I'll get back to you lads and I'll put out my findings on Twitter.
This post has been deleted.
My extensive research. But my take at the time was that it was pretty decent, so we'll see where it goes. Might not talk to you two for the rest of the show.
So Tino
might just go solo. But in general terms, obviously we've covered the ins and outs, the ups and downs of that game. But Celtic, certainly form-wise, number-wise, were in a good place. So 4 games, 4 wins, 100% league to the start of the league campaign.
Exactly, we're top of the league. Win every game. Come on, lads.
Yeah. Only 1 goal conceded, 36 games unbeaten.
Well, there we go. And that's the point I would like to kind of just really touch on, is that I thought we defended excellently, bar one moment when we all get attracted to the ball and Gianelli was through, who incidentally, Hearts fans are not sure of him. Unfortunately, I know a lot of jambos. Hearts fans are not sure of him. Every time he plays against Celtic, he looks dangerous.
He looked guppy yesterday.
Every time he looks dangerous. But he always, I think he always shows something when he plays against us, but apparently he's not doing that. He's not doing that every week.
The very fact they played him for a full 90 minutes when he was absolutely shattered tells you he's not playing on Thursday.
No.
They weren't resting him.
No, he get flogged.
I was at some point, he was over on the left-hand side and he's meant to be playing centre forward, and their right back managed to get the ball. He just done that. He's wanting like a 90-yard switch across the park, just put his hand up. The boy played it where he should be and he just done.
Did you not see?
I'm not running.
We're about 10 or 15 minutes to go. He just went for a lie down.
Aye.
Did you see him? He just thought, I'm done. Miss me out, lads. I'll just take a breather here. But I think, for all Robbie Neilson's, griping and moaning, they had 0 shots on target. The chance by Gianelli, actually, I watched that back in the highlights. It was actually a very decent move. Gary Mackay-Steven very involved in it and eventually plays him in. When you get an on goal against Celtic, you need to at least work the keeper, and I thought it was a really poor attempt.
Poor attempt, but I thought Celtic, other than that, defended excellently. Jens and Carter Vickers, it was a fairly direct approach for Hearts when they did get forward. I think they had 4 or 5 corners in a row, which we managed to defend really well as well, Hart included. So I think over the piece, often we wax lyrical about Celtic's attack and playing rightly so. But considering Jens is a relatively new, but a very new partner for Carter Vickers, and that our fullbacks spend just as much time attacking as they do defending, I think when you look at the structure of the team, and a lot of it's to do with Cal McGregor as well, by the way, the overall defensive display was excellent. We limited Hearts to very few chances, and often you're judging Celtic on their attacking play, especially when they're at home. But I thought that the defensive structure of the team looked really, really good. Yeah,
I agree with that. And as I say, 0 shots on target, and you can't just put that down to poor play by Hearts. You've got to credit Celtic for it as well. So let's move on. I'm fed up with Hearts. Paddy, you're fed up with them. You're always fed up with Hearts, so we'll move on for that. Before we do move on to the next section, I want to let listeners know what we've got coming up on another busy week on our Celtic Exchange Plus channel. On Wednesday, we'll be releasing the launch episode from our brand new Celtic Relived series. And for this very first episode, we have a very special guest from a very special time in Celtic's history. It's a brilliant episode to get us started, and we're really looking forward to bringing you that one. We'll then have the pre-match show for the Dundee United game out on Friday afternoon before the post-match show from the game itself on Sunday as Celtic look to make it 5 league wins from 5 at Tannadice. If you haven't yet signed up for the Celtic Exchange Plus, you can do so now at the celticexchange.supercast.com, and we're offering all new listeners a free 7-day trial for a very limited time only. So to enjoy our exciting new range of shows, including this week's very special first episode of the Celtic Relived series, visit the celticexchange.supercast.com. Miff.
Did you say free for 7 days?
7 whole days
That's
free.
excellent.
That's not bad.
And is the episode... Why are you laughing?
You just seem very staged here.
That's great value.
Do you know what? It's going to look like we've rehearsed this and we definitely haven't.
No.
7 days free
7
at the
days
Celtic
free.
Exchange Plus.
Excellent.
You buy one, you get one free. I said you buy one, you get one free. The Celtic Relived episode,
Yeah.
that was unnamed.
One, I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to reveal all just yet.
Oh.
Well, but it's the one you and I done. And
So it's the one, that's what I was just about to check. It's the one I've done.
But
You're in for a treat.
you can vouch for him a very enjoyable hour or so.
An emotional episode, I would say as well. The tone of it is just, very rarely, Troops, will you see me lost for words, but you'll see it in this one.
Yeah, it's a brilliant episode. So we're going to have that out on Wednesday and we'll have more details for you on that one. Paddy, do you want to plug the show? Miff done brilliantly there. I just thought the way he segued into it. Anything?
No,
Anything
I
for me?
can't beat it.
Can't be that.
Can't
Can't
beat
be
it.
brilliance.
Cheers, lads.
The draw for the Champions League group stages, that takes place at 5 o'clock on Thursday in Istanbul as Celtic take their place amongst Europe's elite to find out who will face in this season's tournament. 32 teams will be split into 8 groups of 4 and Celtic's name goes into the hat alongside the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern Munich and Dutch giants PSV Eindhoven. You heard it here first. Paddy, what are you hoping for the draw? Are you going for the glamour group or are you keen on something a bit more favourable?
Do you know what? That's the craw,
I
man.
know.
You can't craw things like that, man.
I know. Were you crossing your legs when you said that? Just
Nah, we're going for it.
You
Right.
can't craw things.
Fair
No,
enough.
that's the
Fair
craw.
enough.
Nah,
Big
nah,
Ruud Van Hulseers, right?
nah.
Paddy, what would the draw? Glamour draw?
glamour draw. Give us 50-50. Give us one that we can, a team that we can definitely compete against, and then give us 2 glamour ties. Give us the 3rd place. I think. Obviously, I'd love to see us try and sneak 2nd, but you know, if other teams can have a run in the Europa League, then why can't we?
Yeah. Miff, I'll give you a flavour of the teams that we could face. So in pot 1, you've got the likes of Real Madrid, Man City, our old pals Eintracht Frankfurt, great bunch of lads. PSG. Pot 2, Liverpool, Barca, Juventus. Pot 3, Dortmund, Inter Milan, Bayer Leverkusen, our pals for last year. And we fall into pot 4 alongside Bruges and the 6 other teams who qualify. What's your take, Miff? Are you going glamour? As you always do?
I think Real Madrid, that's the one we all want, I think.
Aye.
Everybody's saying it.
That's the one we all want.
There's my daft one on me, but I'll ignore it for the show.
Mr. C, however.
We'll keep going.
I think Real Madrid's the one for me. Other ones, I wouldn't want Liverpool.
Why not?
I think we've played them twice in my lifetime.
That's enough.
I don't need to see them again. Who else? Barca in pot 2? No, I don't.
Liverpool, Barca, Juve, pot 2.
Well, we wouldn't be able to get Real and Barca anyway because you couldn't get them same nation.
Aye, man, I don't want you to sit here and work out all the permutations. so we
No,
could
but I'm
face.
trying. You asked me who I would like to see. I'm trying to answer the question. I mean, I think that's a fairly simple premise. Listen, see, be honest, you just want a draw that's, like Paddy says, a combo, a glamour tie where you know you're probably not going to win, but a team in there that you're at least got to be able to compete with for the 3rd place.
Aye.
Because it's going to be really, really difficult. The development of the team and the evolution of the team is still in its infancy. After our chat there, I do really think we need to sign another midfielder. I would say that's a glaring thing. But I think the thing about the Montenegrin player, I apologise because I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Hold on, I'll get it for you because I've written it down and I want to make
I believe
sure
his first name's Said.
We'll just call him Side. You and him are close.
Said H.
Side
Cool.
edge.
Haksabanovic.
Haksabanovic. Sounded like an absolute Philistine, but I just didn't know Haksabanovic. He can play as a 10.
I believe so.
Was this a chat?
Which, but I read this, Paddy. I read this on a printed newspaper, which I don't get very often, only a Saturday for my horses.
Okay.
And I thought that was maybe the angle for signing him because clearly, although what I would say is, if you looked at Mooy does set up the goal, brilliant. Shutting down, amazing. He's then also missed a very good headed chance and done one of the most bizarre fresh air attempts at crossing the ball that I've seen in quite some time. Abada got a man sent off when he came on, but that was pretty much all that he did. Interestingly enough, just a wee snippet, a wee off tangent snippet here. Dafabet had done like a teammates thing with Juranovic and Joe Hart. Did you see it?
Yeah, really good.
Best first touch, Abada.
Yeah, I seen that in the debate. I thought it was really good actually. That
I think we're needing to bring that one to the park.
Yeah, it's funny because we've been banging the drum for him to get the nod, but when he comes on, he needs to.
I thought he just was really erratic when he came.
I thought he looked good against Kilmarnock last week. I'd agree.
It was erratic when he came.
You've somehow dragged us back to the Hearts chat. I'm trying to move on.
Sorry.
Champions League.
I'm going to set this one out. On you go.
There's a very interesting quote. So we've spoken there about, what do we want? Glamour tie, somebody we can compete with, or what the mix might be. Joe Hart, there's a really good quote of his doing the rounds talking about Ange. So he says, he hasn't got his feeling that we can just go and beat anyone, but he's certainly got his feeling that if we're together, we can take anyone on and give a good account of ourselves. He is us and we are him, so we're rolling as a unit. Be a bit dramatic, be a bit Instagrammy and all that kind of stuff. There's probably a wee strong arm emoji after that, Paddy, but
it's better than Ryan Giggs' poems, put it that way.
Oh, would you like to recite some of Giggs' stuff?
Absolutely not.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, in terms of Joe Hart, he's a big disciple of Ange, and he carries the message alongside Callum McGregor. But that's a good way to approach it, isn't it? I don't, whether we get Madrid or whoever we get, I don't think there's any fear within this team in terms of who we'll face.
No, and neither there should be, because we're on an upward trajectory, and that's the most important thing. We're trying to. That's the attitude. I think it was the attitude Rodgers tried to instill. I think in some ways he went about it the wrong way, because he just absolutely refused to yield for anything. I think with Ange, I think the way we play is slightly more pragmatic in defence than what Rodgers was. Albeit that the thought of being 3-0 down at home to PSG and Joe Hart getting the ball off the ball boy to play it quick into somebody, I can't say I'm absolutely buzzing to pay 60 quid for that. But I suppose it's all about mentality. Like I keep saying, how often do you see players that have played for us or played in the Scottish League, and then they go and play for a team that comes and visits us in the Europa League or whatever, and they suddenly look far more technically accomplished playing for that team than they ever did when they play for us? Well, there's a classic example. And I mean, even you look at jeez, don't even. So you look at players like that, and you say, as it must be mentality. Then it must be how they're being asked to play. Mm-hmm. So we can't have it both ways. We can't want success in Europe and not need to go through the process of the players understanding the way the manager wants them to play under the most intense of pressure. That's where it gets tested to its very limit. Yeah. The only way we're going to learn is by going in and doing it as Ange wants to do it. I don't think it's going to be too pretty, to be honest with you. But if it comes off, which it might, because I think the players are quoted as saying they started believing in the Ange system under the most intensive pressure when they were playing in Seville against Betis. Mm-hmm. You never know, it could ramp it up again.
I think in the nicest way, Ange doesn't play football this way. He doesn't set his teams up to play in this quite unique way so that he can beat Dundee at home. Ange has got a North Star, he's got a bigger picture in his head. I think he has absolutely dreamed of coaching a team in the Champions League, and he's about to realise that dream over the next couple of weeks. And there's no way he's changing what he's doing. Could you imagine? You know the kind of guy he is, you know the kind of principles he holds. He's not going to turn around and say, this is my absolute belief in football, this is my mantra, but we've got PSG next week, so I'm just going to park the bus. It's absolutely not happening. And do you know what? You wouldn't want it either. And you know what? We might get a couple of doings, but I can accept that if you just go out giving your all and applying this system to the best of your ability, and we'll see where it takes us.
One of the things we see naturally with the performance at home against Leverkusen, which I know we could beat 4-0, but a lot of people would walk away for that saying we missed so many chances that game, that night, and it wasn't a drubbing in that sense. We did kind of match up with him a good large portion of the game. And I think the same with Betis, obviously the 4-3 game over there. And then even Leverkusen, Leverkusen were all over us for pretty much 90 minutes. We will drop deeper. Not through tactically, it's just going to be the pressure that we're going to be up against. Teams are used to, playing at a high tempo and faster leagues than what we play in. But one of the things that you can be assured of is that we'll have chances.
Yeah.
We will with the way he sets up, we will 100% have chances. And it's how good our defence is on the night. And the way that there seems to be a bit of a routine, a bit of a pattern, and a bit more of an understanding between our two full-backs and both wingers that have been starting the games. That's only good, because we never had that last season as well. It was very much chop and change. And I just think that bodes well. And going into these games that, we are a bit more savvy, a bit more aware how to come up against it. Albeit, it will be Real Madrid and they will come at us pretty hard. But I just think, I definitely think there's goals in this Celtic team in the Champions League.
Do you know what I think's hilarious? Just when you mentioned wingers there, it's so funny. Like, when Jota's running with the ball, he is absolutely rapid. See if you ask him to turn around and chase a fullback, he's like, concrete boots. Man, it's hilarious.
Did you see when the Hearts guy basically turned him inside out to get to the back line? Jota looked like an absolute haddy.
He's like, no, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
Get me going that way, lads.
Defending's not his game.
No.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting. You talked about that 4-0 game against Leverkusen at Celtic Park. I think all of us will have been at the 5-0 PSG game at Celtic Park.
Yes.
That was the biggest doing I've ever experienced. And all my time watching Celtic, you just felt you couldn't even touch the ball, let alone get near the goals.
Rabiot that night was absolutely outstanding.
One of the best headers I'll ever seen for Cavani as well. Never see a better header.
Exceptional. And you just felt from a very early stage in that game, you were getting zero. You weren't even going, you were doing well like in their half. And you just, it was as a Celtic fan, it was a really poor night. Really hard to go through. But then you get beat 4-0 by Leverkusen, and it's never to accept defeat. But to your point, Paddy, you could see something there. I think Kyogo had a couple of decent chances, and it was just it was a different doing. It's my favourite doing in a long time.
Keeper made a few good saves as well.
Blinder.
In terms of just the overall picture, so we've spoken about the draw and who we might face on Thursday, and it's a good one to look forward to. But from your point of view, lads, what's your realistic expectations of our European campaign this year? Will much of it depend on what that draw brings and how favourable it is? What would you see as reasonable success?
I think much of it still depends on what we've yet to do in the transfer market as well. I don't think we should be finished. If we are, then I would probably need to adjust my expectation.
I think it's next Tuesday at midnight that the window closes. So
does it close?
It slams shut.
Thank you.
Slams shut. So we've got, at time of recording, we've got about a week-ish to go, Paddy.
I don't think he's done. I just think it's obviously finding the right players that are wanting to come and possibly play Champions League football, and he'll maybe be waiting until the draw is made or wait until the playoffs are done to look at a few more players that he could possibly bring in. I don't think it's done.
If you ever needed any more evidence that Mr. Lowell is still in the building, it's that he loves a wee PR coup on the last day of the transfer window. He loves it.
We've not had one in a wee bit. I know obviously we brought...
Last season was, we didn't know it at the time, but last season was fairly notable.
Giakoumakis,
I think
Jota, Carter
Vickers. Jeez.
But names of note, he's not had a big...
No, I know. We've not had the Robbie Keane, Roy Keane type thing, but what I mean by that is he always likes to get a bit of business done in the last day, so there's some positive news as the window shuts. He loves it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But I'll tell you something, if you're a player, what an incentive to come and join a club. If Ange phoned you up and said, you'll have seen the draw there, eh? Real Madrid, Bayern, whatever, do you know what I mean? Listing all these big names. That's every player, like across the globe, not just European footballers, players across the globe want to feature in the Champions League. And whether they want to come and use it as a stepping stone, a springboard to further success, whatever. But it's very much in Celtic's favour to put that proposition to players, and it must be very helpful when it comes to negotiating.
100%, and you've also got the World Cup to take into consideration as well. Everything's happening very quickly in the first 6 months, so we should be looking at players that are, maybe knocking the door in an international team as well, and just make sure that we sell it right to them.
I was seeing that Eden Hazard needs some game time and he's not getting in Madrid. Will we just get him in?
Aye,
see if he fancies it.
Bring him in.
As you say, Paddy, it's a very busy time. World Cup starts on the 20th of November, and in terms of the Champions League group games, so they start on the 5th of September. They run until the 2nd of November, and basically the 6 group games are condensed in a period of just 8 weeks. So it's going to be a really busy time and thick and fast, and you'll need a squad capable of handling that as well.
Absolutely, hence why my mind's still on players to come in, because again, given that Kyogo and Giakoumakis, I've made this point every week for about 4 or 5 weeks, they spent long periods of time out injured last year. you need another striker in there because as yet he's no fit for purpose.
No, he's not. And Johnny Kenny's away to Queen's Park
Yep.
for loan. So good luck to him as well. Seems a good kid. So the Champions League final, just saying, Miff, it's on Saturday, 10th of June at the Olympic Stadium in Istanbul. So, you know.
What would be your dream trip then, lad? Sorry, to play host, Tino. What would be your dream trip?
Play away.
Easy, Tino.
I'd love Madrid. I would. Like
everybody's saying it, but it'd be great fun.
See.
I agree. I'll be going with Paddy. So.
Oh, you've got a wee habit of doing that.
That's it, mate. You're more than welcome. So listen, exciting one on Thursday. Let's see what the draw brings, but definitely something to look forward to. Next up, in terms of Scottish Premiership stuff, Celtic are struggling. Dundee United, a team who are still reeling from a 7-0 down by AZ Alkmaar a couple of weeks back. They've also had a really poor start to their league campaign, and after drawing their opener with Kilmarnock, 1 each, they've then recorded consecutive defeats by Livingston, Hearts, and a 3-0 home defeat to St Mirren on Saturday, I think there. So Miff, Jack Ross, decent reputation in the game. You know, he's had some ups and downs, but he finds himself in a really shaky position now. And how do you think he's going to approach that one on Sunday?
I think probably very similar to the way Hearts approach things. I think they'll try and just keep things tight, as teams often do against us. But like I always say, it's down to what we do. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to the positive intent we come out with. If we move the ball quicker than what we did on Saturday, you know, bear in mind we still did create a lot of chances on Saturday. It's just maybe the overall general play wasn't deemed as fluent as it would normally be. Even if you play, Sunday, I should say, if you play the way you played on Sunday, last Sunday, this Sunday, you'll still win. I think
a lot of Sundays there.
That's fair. But I think you'll still win. I wouldn't be surprised though if in this type of situation Dundee United raise their game as it can often happen. So we can't go there taking anything for granted. We have to go there, play our stuff, move the ball quickly, and get the game won.
Caught some of their highlights, Paddy, of the St Mirren game, 3-0 as I'd mentioned there. They looked a wee bit shell-shocked in general. I was also really disappointed to see Tannadice looking really, really empty after they had the full house for the European game. And I understand ups and downs, but it looks like almost immediately the fans have deserted them after a couple of poor results. What do you think? They've still got some good players in their ranks. Dylan Levitt, very good player, scored a good goal against Celtic last year. Stephen Fletcher, still playing football. I think he's about 48. And Tony Watt, but they're really struggling, aren't they?
They are, and I think having watched the 1-0 victory against Alkmaar, a team that, you know, we were up against as well, and it took its toll against us, especially over there. They played really well. They played really well at Tannadice, and I don't think they're a bad team. I just don't think anything's clicking at the moment. There's a lot of chat that there's a bit of disharmony between the manager and the players as well. They just need to get that kind of sorted. Apparently there was clearly air chats, which doesn't really spell confidence if you're coming out and telling people about that. But apparently Jack Ross said that him and the players have kind of buried everything and they're trying to move on. But then obviously comes the 3-0 defeat on Saturday. It is a game to try and right things. You know, they'll probably set up for the draw like most teams do against us. I still think it'll be a difficult one, but a good test for us. Probably a bit more urgency needed, in my opinion, on Sunday, I think, than what we needed against Hearts.
Yeah, I think when you get to that clear and the airtight talk stage, it's not it rarely ends well, put it that way. Yeah. I think one of their biggest problems is they've not replaced Siegrist. He's one of the better goalies around, and he's obviously now back up to Joe Hart. I don't know the names of the fellas that have stepped in, but I think they've swapped the goalie around.
Bariti was the player that they signed.
One of them was really poor against Alkmaar in the 7-0 game. So, I mean, it sounds like an obvious thing, Muff, but personnel plays a huge part in that. Absolutely,
and I think the fact they got Levitt back was a major thing for them because he was one of their better players last season. But teams like Dundee United, if you take somebody like Siegrist would have won them many points last season just because he's a quality keeper. I feel sorry for them in the sense that to go for the highs of that victory at Tannadice with the full house to then absolute thumping the next week, you know, few young players in the team as well, draining them of confidence. It's difficult. However, sympathy is not something we should be showing them on Sunday. We've got a job that we need to do. We need to go out and do it. So for all United have got their woes, don't think there's many folk feeling sorry for us last year when we were trying to cobble wins together.
Right.
Just the simple fact is, and bear in mind that when we clinched the title up at Tannadice, they didn't make it easy for us either. They gave it a right go to try and stop us. So they're capable of that type of performance. The squad isn't wholly too different for what it was that night. So we need to go up there. We need to be professional. We need to do our job and do what we do best.
Yeah, I agree with that. They finished 4th last season, so a pretty solid season under Tam Courts, but they now find themselves second bottom with only 1 point from 12. Paddy, I was going to ask you about maybe a bit of general chat on the ticket allocation for this one initially, but also in general. I know Tannadice is a ground you like to visit, but there's obviously chat breaking today about St Mirren. Maybe you can explain a bit more about it, actually.
Yeah, so obviously it looks like St Mirren are trying to cover the cost for not opening up the stands to both Celtic and Rangers fans. Now, if you're a supporter of these clubs, I kind of get it. You're at your home stadium and you're outnumbered by the away fans. I can see where it wouldn't sit right. However, the money that comes in from these games and what that can do for your club, then you should be biting the hands off of it. And I think that's what kind of St Mirren are possibly making a stance with, being able to just say to their fans, right, okay, we're not going to give them the allocation. However, we still need to make the money. So if you want this to be the case, then stamp up the money that we're going to lose. It's quite a tough game to play. I don't know how it'll sit with the St Mirren fans. But
yeah, so just to clarify that, the St Mirren board are saying, okay, we'll not have Celtic and Rangers fans in en masse, but you guys need to cover or offset the losses. So they're basically asking some fans, if I've got this right, to basically pay 30 quid for an empty seat, 30 quid not to take a seat. Is that right?
Aye,
that just seems utter, and don't be too dramatic. Cost of living crisis, people are struggling. 30 quid to not sit in a seat.
I know.
That's bonkers.
This then gives them the argument, though. They can turn around and say, if the fans kind of make an uproar against it, then, well, we need the money from Celtic and Rangers fans. Every club that, lives well within their means will bank that money.
It's a very interesting move. It's Lasley that's gone to St Mirren, isn't it? From Motherwell, Keith Lasley, in some sort of executive role. I wonder if he's involved in that. But that'll be interesting, Paddy, as you say, in terms of how the St Mirren fans respond to that. They might buy into it, and a bundle of them might say, yeah, I'll give you 30 quid for Celtic fans not to be there, which is fine. But I'd be surprised if there's mass uptake on that, and there'll be more empty seats and less money coming into St Mirren. And at a time when football clubs are struggling as much as anybody else, it just seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Absolutely. It goes hand in hand with a lot of the arguments. We're looking at some of the ticket prices that we're getting quoted for away games as well. Just now, they're all sitting at minimum £30 for games. And there was chat, obviously, what Hearts fans were getting charged £30, £32, £35 yesterday for Celtic Park. I think the club should be getting round the table, make sure they're getting fans in the door and bringing it down to the 20. If not 20, obviously we know inflation's a thing at the moment and it's creeping up. 25, get people on the seats, because we're not in the greatest TV deals at the moment, and not all games are getting aired. And when they are getting aired, when you're sitting looking at empty stands, no wonder people aren't wanting to put the money into this league. So it should be made easier for the fans on that basis. I
agree with you. I think that's all spot on, Paddy. The only thing I'm struggling with is the £25, because 20 is plenty. It's just a great campaign, and I'm struggling to 20, 25. We'll need to work on that, will we?
Right, we'll come back with that next week.
We'll come back to that once I review my Aaron Mooy chat. Matt, any take on that in general? Do you think the away fans, we need to sort this out just as a league in general?
I think, yes. I think it taps into the whole issue around the market in Scottish football, if I'm being perfectly honest. Right. I think what it shows is a lack of cohesion in the way that the clubs all kind of work together. I understand from a competitive point of view why any football club wouldn't want to be outnumbered by the away fans in their home fixture, simply because of the psychological advantage that being at home gives a team. So to lose that by having the stadium filled with away fans, I can understand why even a club and its supporters would want to stop that. It's a bizarre way of going about it, to be fair. and I've seen a lot of takes on Twitter around it being Celtic and Rangers for that point being entitled as to wanting the seats. I don't see it that way. I see Celtic and Rangers fans as being willing paying customers
to support Scottish football.
For those seats. It's quite a take to label, you know, Celtic and Rangers fans is entitled for wanting to go and watch their team. I really don't understand. Somebody will need to explain that to me.
Wow.
I've seen it, you know, somebody for Port Glasgow was criticising St Mirren. They said, oh, well, you drive by Morton Stadium and our stadium to go to Celtic Park or Ibrox. That is completely irrelevant.
Aye.
It's completely irrelevant. You support your team because you support your team for whatever your reasons are. That's down to you personally. It's absolutely nobody's business if it's to do with your local team or not. There's other ways you can go and support your local team. For me, this is just fundamentally down to understanding what the market is in Scotland, what the best supported teams are, and therefore the games that are the best attended. It's pretty much guaranteed if you open up 3/4 of the stadium to practically any team in Scotland, bar Celtic or Rangers, it won't sell it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the exception that might be the Jambos. I think they've got quite a high season ticket uptake this season. But for most other stadiums, it wouldn't sell out. So commercially, you know, a lot of commercial managers, different clubs will be coming at it from that angle where they're wanting to give more away tickets away just because they sell more and of an impact on budgets. You know, what the club can afford in wages that season and possibly the next season. You take that away, can the Scottish clubs out with Celtic and Rangers afford to lose that revenue? Can they? I don't think they can. But if they would rather spite Celtic and Rangers and lose the income for the sake of competitive advantage, I get it, but I think it might be a silly move in the long run.
Yeah, somebody was saying it cost Kelly best part of, or potentially cost them best part of 250 grand in lost revenue not to open up the stands to Celtic last week. £250,000. You'll have Celtic twice guaranteed this season, you'll have Rangers twice. There's £1 million Kilmarnock Football Club, for example, are saying no to. That's criminal. And when there's an opportunity there to bring that money in, that would cover your wages and then some.
You say that though, but my pushback on that is it criminal if that's what the fans are demanding? Because ultimately football clubs are, in effect, it'll be ran as well as it can be by individuals in the board, but you're answerable to the fans. So if they don't like a manager, they'll push back in that. If they have backed that, then you can see why the clubs are turning that round. It's strange and it's bizarre, but they're actually turning it around the fans and saying, right, okay, we want to retain that competitive advantage. How are we going to make up that income?
Aye.
But as usual, as always happens in football, who do you turn it back to? The fans.
Aye.
It's the fans that are always a cash cow. It's the fans that you're always taking the money from. And that's what football's problem is. And why is that the problem? Because we don't have the investment at the top level because the money's not filtering down.
And it feeds into our chat last week about not bringing enough money in the game through TV deals and otherwise. So it's an interesting one. Do you want to make a final point on it, Paddy? Have you got something to...
No, I'm good.
You look like you were about to come at me again.
No, I'm all right.
But yeah, it's a very interesting move by St Mirren. So we'll see the response to that from their fans and we'll see how this starts to play out as the season goes. Moving back very briefly to the Dundee United chat. So we obviously get sidetracked there with away allocations. Do you think we'll see much change, Miff, in the lineup? Celtic have, for the first time in a long time, gone with the same team for the last 3 games. And it's not because we've got injuries or it's enforced. Ange has just decided to go with a settled team. So I'll come to you first, Paddy. Any take on what we'll do? Will Hatate slot in? Is that the obvious one? Anything else you might see?
I think Hatate will replace Turnbull.
Anything else? Anything up top? Giakoumakis banging the door?
No. Stevie pointed out to me last night, Kyogo, since he's returned, scored 7 and 8.
Not to be I don't know what the word is, but Kyogo's changed his agent. Have you seen that?
I did.
I don't know what the word is. We'll edit it in later on. But
Harbinger of doom.
That's 3 words. He's changed his agent. Don't know if that means anything. He might renegotiate his Celtic or he might go to Southampton.
Here's hoping he has a poor World Cup.
Oh, gee, so. That's a strange way to look at it.
Does it go anywhere in January?
Yeah, but he comes back a wee bit unmotivated. My phobia yourself, do you see much change for the United game?
I think Hatate, or as my wee boy calls him, Himtate, will come back in. I think he'll come in for either Turnbull or O'Reilly. I can't see another change, and I think pretty notable performance from Jens. at the weekend there, Sunday. I thought he was excellent. Really good near, bar one attempted clearance that he kind of sclaffed. Other than that, I think that was the one thing that he did. Other than that, I thought he was.
What about his shot and goal?
He should have scored, or he should at least have hit target. But he's a centre half.
I think he's left footed as well, is he?
Is he?
I think so.
No,
isn't it?
he's right footed but very comfy on his left. That's the chat.
One of that lot.
The one thing I was going to say
He
about
didn't half hit it.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say about Jens was I think he's far more comfortable in the ball moving forward than Starfelt, but I think Starfelt looks to me like a better defender. And I think that's the rub. You know, you need to make your call on that as to what you do for your Ange. But I think when you're at home to Hearts, you would rather have the better ball player, just to be honest with you, because Starfelt and Carter Vickers, you're not going to come under the cosh, generally speaking, at home domestically. So for me, Jens is the man just now.
We never really had the luxury of being able to rotate the centre halves last year. And I know we all say that's probably something Ange doesn't do, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does this season. I think that we will see a bit of a mix-up.
He's now got genuine options with Jens coming in.
Yeah.
And I think Welsh has shown that he can step in as well.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Miff, do you want to give us a scoreline prediction for Tannadice?
3-0 Celtic.
2-0 Celtic.
I'm also 3-0 Celtic. So they'll make it tough. Listen, Jack Ross is scrapping for his job, to be honest with you. I don't expect them to open up, but I just think Celtic are going to be too good for a team that are feeling the pressure at this moment in time. Just a couple of extra bits of news, or AOBs if you like. So we've obviously touched on, how do you say it, Miff? The new signing?
What?
The new signing?
I was still laughing at AOB.
AOBs.
It's like a team meeting. You finished with sandwiches? Go and take them out to trips. See if any of them want it.
So, Haksabanovic, I don't know if I've got that right or not, Paddy. Ange revealed after the game that we're very close to making him our next signing and his 20th signing since he came in. So Ange's signed 19 players so far. The 23-year-old winger is a Montenegrin international, and it looks like he'll be taking the same route to Celtic Park that Karl Starfelt took, coming from Rubin Kazan in Russia. Any chat on him, Muff?
No, but I've been to Montenegro. It's lovely.
Right, cool. Paddy?
Brilliant.
Delighted for you. Paddy?
I've not been to Montenegro.
Right, cool. We'll see how that one goes, but I've a feeling, as you lads said, he's maybe not the last transfer to come in as the window comes to a close. Slam shut. There's a quote from Ange I want to finish on. I just picked up on it today, and in terms of transfers and ongoing progress at the club, Ange had the following words to say: "We can't stand still, and we're still building. Every now and then I glance at the diary and I'll go back 12 months, and if you go back 12 months from today, you're going to have a very different picture of what our football club looked like. We've made a hell of a lot of progress, but we are still at the beginning. I'm still building a team, building a game style, building an environment. There is still work to be done. Just because you've had success or it looks like things are going well, it's not the time to stand still. I still know there's a lot of work to be done, and my ambitions for this football club are very strong in terms of making sure we can be the best we can be." And it's very strong words by Ange, and it's very encouraging, Paddy. So just your final thoughts on that and any final comments for this week.
Yeah, I think he knows that there's still some room for improvement, and I think he will be looking at these games we've had in August, and he'll realise, right, we need to bolster it up a wee bit more, give ourselves a wee fighting chance for a wee run in Europe this season, and you know, attempt to try and do something. Finishing second would be incredible. We would obviously bite our hand off for that, but yeah, just a team competent enough to go and try and finish third. I think that's what we'll be after.
Yeah, and I think that would be decent success.
Yeah.
Miff, I seen you loving watching me struggle with that quote there, tripping over my words a wee bit. So what's your own final thoughts?
I do enjoy that, Tino. I must say that's one of my favourite things in the podcast. Listen, I just love the man. Back him, buckle up, enjoy the ride.
Yeah, that's a good way to finish as any. So Celtic now find themselves with a bit of space at the top of the table following the weekend's results, but Ange Postecoglou is thinking of nothing else but the next fixture as he and his players now turn attentions to Dundee United on Sunday. It's a ground Ange will have fond memories of, having clinched the league title there last year, but for now the only focus will be to pick up another 3 points. Thanks to Miff and Paddy for joining me in today's show, and as always, our thanks to you for tuning in. Remember to sign up at thecelticexchange.supercast.com to begin your free 7-day trial of the Celtic Exchange Plus, and to listen to our brilliant new episode of Celtic Relived from Wednesday. But in the meantime, from all of us here, we'll see you again very soon.